Hello friends, I'm back to finish the second part of the Pemaquid Point Lighthouse in Maine. So we had left off, we have some shadow we have to do for the lighthouse over here. I'm gonna have to get something to make this ground come to life a little bit. And I'd like something to do in the sky as well. But first let me get the horizon line, which is gonna be, now for this I might actually turn it this way just so I can get some sense of a straight line. Hope this works. But you know, it's all an adventure either way. It might come up a little bit, might be a little bit off, but hopefully that's okay. Yeah, maybe it could have been. Let me see if I can fix it a little bit. Make it a bit more. Bring this down just a little bit here, or at least make it feel like it's coming down a little bit. The water. I think I have it a little bit off still. Let me see if I can make this a little bit. But this is the thing working with the Sharpie marker, is that when I make mistakes, I gotta just live with them, you know? We're trying to make this a little bit more. I guess what was getting to me about it was that the line here probably should be fairly close to being parallel to the lines there. So I needed to adjust it a little bit. Okay. All right, well, so that's where we are with that. And like I said, there's gonna be some rocks in here. So let me get working on some of these here. But I wanted to tell a little story here about, as I said in the first video on this lighthouse, we had stayed in the cabin of Admiral Byrd, who I believe he was the first person to fly to both the North Pole and the South Pole. And he was part of the treaty that kept Antarctica to be not belong to any particular country, which I think is pretty cool. But he, there's a story that I found fascinating when we were staying at the cabin, that we ended up reading in a little journal thing there. It was a journal that was open for people to read, but it wasn't like I was reading somebody's private journal. But it was a story about how he, when he was a young boy, 12 years old or something like that, he had traveled to visit his uncle in the Philippines, I believe it was. And when he traveled to visit his uncle in the Philippines, give this some, oh, this rock's gonna be here like this. We'll have some brush here. When he traveled to visit his uncle in the Philippines, he had stayed there for a few months, and he had looked on the map and he was like, oh wow, I could go the other way around the world on the way back, and then I could have been somebody who circumnavigated the world. And so he asked his uncle if he could do that. And back then it was a whole, you know, system of it, because you had to get trains and boats and other things like that. And his uncle said, sure, you know, you work out the details of it and you can do it. So he, at a very young age, it was like 12 or 13 or something like that, he had worked out how to go all the way around the world. Um, and I just imagine what that would have done to a young boy when you come home and people are like, "What'd you do last summer?" And he could say, I traveled around the world. And just how that must have affected his whole identity from then on. Just the idea that you can say that you're somebody who's traveled the entire world. It just it was a very cool story to me, and also just one that made me think a lot about the way my girls are able to experience the opportunities in their lives, and just how I can encourage them to do things, to be a little bit adventurous, be a little bit safe, of course, but also just to experience all the wonder that this world has to offer. So, yeah, so I'm just giving some shade here to these rocks and stuff in here. And then we're gonna have some brush in here that'll be, but I don't want to have it too dark on this side of it, because I want to have some darkness here underneath the brush. So I'm gonna kind of fill that in up here, going up. And that rock, I'm gonna make it a little bit darker too when I get a chance. So I'm not necessarily gonna make everything look perfect, but I do want to give sort of a feel of some texture in here. The brush, just have it come up, and I'll put another rock right here, maybe. One that's like, some sort of grown into the side here. I'm gonna make this mostly dark. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of light in there just to see some texture in the rock. And then that'll give me some things where I can draw some. I'll put another little rock right here. One that's sort of more flat on the ground, where this one's gonna be. But then we'll be able to put some shadow in there from that. I'm gonna draw a little bit of again, just trying to give some feel of texture here. This brush. We'll have a patch here that's maybe in the light a little bit, and then something that's a little darker up here as it goes. So as far as art goes, I really mostly just always like to draw, and I'm sure I'm gonna learn stuff. I'm sure that there's probably some people out there who could probably teach me a thing or two about technique, but I'm just doing what feels natural to me and just enjoying it. And I just like the feeling of just sort of creating something. It's don't like to get too much into a state of just consuming something. I like to have a chance to get out and create, make something. So all right, so then I'm gonna sort of draw these shadows going up here from it. As the sun's coming down, there's gonna be a little bit of shadow here. Just gonna give it a little bit of feel of something there with the shadow. We'll make a little shadow coming off this one here. Pretty thin here, this guy. It's not gonna be too high of a shadow. And then some of this darkness here is gonna sort of all blend together probably, but maybe we even have a little shadow of some rock that's can't even see, off the page. Maybe there's another good rock right there down near the shore, sort of coming up. We're gonna get some of this. This is gonna be kind of there in the darkness a little bit. Thinking about the sun coming on the one side here and how it'll, and then these rocks here will give them a little bit of texture to it too. Maybe we'll make a line or two. Just something that give it a feel of these rocks in here. So, and yeah, and maybe that one, I'll make this one almost even in the shadow a little bit here. So we're gonna stipple this. I remember back when I was in high school and I first learned about stipple drawing. And then I did it in college as well. Another course at college at Villanova. Give a little texture to this here. Make the rock come back here. A little bit of darkness. And we're going to kind of draw all this darkness here. Yeah, let's get this whole patch here a little bit darker down in here. I'm going to bring this darkness down more. Darkness of the brush. Maybe even make it really solidly dark down in parts of it. Like black, just really dark. Even contrast it with the shadow of the rock there, or the shadowed side of the rock. Give a few wisps of things that you can see in there, and we'll get this. I'm gonna get this darkness. Hopefully that'll give the effect that I want. Some of this brush is going to give us some shadow coming up here too. Make some get this nice and dark in here though. If that's all, the sun's pulling that all the way over there, they're going to have some really dark spaces in here in the underbrush. some darkness that goes all the way up here too. Really gets that in there. It'll be. All right, and maybe we'll put, maybe we'll put a few little stones in places up here along the hillside. We got to stretch some of these weeds. We got to make them look a little bit more like varied in height coming in here. As it fades away. A little bit more, kind of more darkness down in here, and then it comes out, you know, just a little bit darker right at the base of it. And then comes out and gets. All right, so let's start with some of that. Now, the other thing I need to do is get the shadow on the side of this lighthouse, because it's gonna have, and I think I'm gonna go pure stippling on this. So what I mean by that is I'm gonna be just making lots and lots of dots here to give it a feel for the shadow, and I'll sort of build it out as I go. Maybe even try and get some sense of like curved stones in there or something, I don't know. But mostly it's just gonna be lots and lots of stippling. Lots and lots of just dots with the permanent marker. And as it goes, I'm gonna expand it more and more so that we can get a, it's kind of nice to go in a pattern going straight up and down, because then if it's like a consistent pattern, then it sort of creates like these vertical bands of shadow, which is kind of what I'm looking for, because it'll have that kind of thing. Sometimes when you're seeing a shadow, it'll be consistent all the way down. So getting some of that there. I need to start spacing out just a little bit more as I come out. Hopefully this will get the effect that I want it to. Trying to also just sort of barely touch the paper, you know. Just barely touch the paper here. Give it just sort of light stippling out, maybe almost to the middle of it. There's a little bit of feel of gonna have to go in some spots and get a little bit darker. Might even have to make this window a little bit darker in here. We can really see it, make it stand out. This little window or box or whatever that is. Exactly, I'm not even honestly sure. And then we're definitely going to have some shadow on this as well. So maybe I'll make this kind of, just to distinguish it a little bit, maybe I'll make this with kind of like lines a little bit more than stippling. All right, and then there is the shadow of the entire lighthouse, which actually there's even shadow on here halfway up because it all was coming across this. It's kind of interesting the way the shadow works because it somehow misses the chimney, but I guess the chimney's further back. Oh, I guess there's two chimneys there, that's why. Is that what it is? I think that might be what it is. I think there's actually a chimney in front and a chimney in back. Yeah, I think this is what it is. So I think this is actually a chimney up here in the front, coming from this little thing, and there's a chimney in the back, which I didn't notice before. All right, and so then we're gonna have a shadow that comes up here. It's the lighthouse, which actually is gonna go slightly away from just slightly away from it, because it has a little bit of the tilt of the lighthouse. And then it's got some of the pattern of it up there. And we're gonna have it coming over top of these things here, and it's gonna go up and sort of disappear behind this. Then we'll see the other piece of it up here. And then this, I'm gonna do a light stipple of this all the way through, sort of to create the shadow. We'll see how it looks. Like I said, it's all a fun adventure in art. You know, just I imagine as I get more and more drawings in this YouTube channel that I'll probably get better at this stippling. Get better at doing it in a super consistent pattern. But, you know, like I said, it's just nice to do it. It's nice to get something on paper. Just draw. Come up this whole side here is going to be in shadow. This is the thing, but I'm going to stipple along this to make it a little darker. Maybe I'm going to reinforce that a little bit, the darkness under it. So, all right, so we've got that. The rooftop here, I'm going to give a little bit of tile, just a little bit of feel of some rooftop tiling, just some lines like this here and there. Just give it a little bit of darkness. Just have a pattern of it there that's going to come right out of the shadow, so I'm not going to worry about it. That certainly is a nice thing about using Sharpie markers. I don't have to worry about it just comes right out of the darkness, right? And this is all in shadow here, so it's gonna be, I'm gonna actually make a little bit of this pattern even in the shadow. And more shadow there. Don't want to get it on the flagpole. All right, so that's coming along. It's has a little bit of a feel. Maybe even I'm gonna add a little bit more stippling in here with this. So I'm looking at it and I kind of want it to look a little bit darker coming over in here, a little bit further around. So I'm gonna add a little bit more stippling here. A little bit more coming over. All right, got some rocks. You know what? I do need a few little rocks. Could give a little bit of texture to this too. A little bit of texture here. Maybe some dots that go sort of in a pattern of like some kind of grooves or something. Maybe even a line or two that sharpen up the edge of the rock. Just make it look a little bit. Give a few wisps of grass in here to give the feel of what it's gonna look like. And then maybe what I do too is I'll put a rock right here. So I'm gonna make this one kind of a rock like this. It's kind of half buried here in the grass. I'm gonna have it come up. All right, so we'll get this here. We'll get some wisps of grass here in the front. Just make it feel like it's really varied. Maybe even in here we'll have like a really big bushel of grass in there. Get some grass on the edges here. And we'll give it some, maybe make it in here, we'll make it look like it has a little groove in there in a way. Comes around like that. Get some, but mostly we want it to be, look like it's out in the light here. Start getting a little bit more here so it's like, it's almost like rounded on the edge. And then up here, we're gonna have it be, some real darkness up here. And we'll even get some lines like this that are sort of give the feel of shadow on the edge of that rock. Have it come out a little bit, go in a little bit. Get this mostly dark, but I'm gonna leave a little bit of light in it so it's just looks more like it's shaded here. We'll make this, maybe there's a little bit of light coming here too, so this is just gonna be pretty stippled, but it's not gonna be fully. And then we'll get some shadow too from this. So we're gonna get, it's not gonna be a huge rock, it'll be something that maybe down here it's sticking out a little bit more, so so we're gonna have it be on the edge here. And I think like actually kind of making it, instead of stippling, like making it more of a lines going this way, gives it a little bit more feel of it being like a shadow. I don't know, just sort of lengthens it a little bit. Yeah, we'll make this a kind of sharp edge of darkness right here on the edge. Give us a firm edge to that. That'll help for it, and then the darkness will come out of there. Out of that sharp edge. Okay, and what we'll do, I think, is maybe we'll put some other rocks just here and there that aren't really out of the ground. We're not gonna really see much of them, but just give a little bit of texture here to this. Give some here, maybe up here near the lighthouse itself. We'll give a couple extra ones that are closer together, some just sort of giving some feel to the ground as being this rocky kind of texture to the ground. And we'll give a little bit of grassy wisps, you know, here and there. Just make them smaller as they go away. Go further away. So we're not gonna have those wisps too far there. But little wisps of grass. Okay. All right. And now we're gonna work on the clouds up here. So in the clouds, I'd like to make it, I'd like to make a little bit of, how should I make the clouds? Should I make it a little swirly kind of. What I'm gonna do though is I'm going to just sort of lightly sketch out where some of the clouds will be. So maybe we'll have one coming from behind the lighthouse somewhere here. Very lightly. I'm going to touch this. And give another one over here. Just a light touch of the cloud. Well, we're gonna do something with them once we get it on there, but see how it goes. Giving this sort of the gotta give a little bit more definition of this, I think. Give a little bit more here too. This cloud. And I think that's it. I think that's it for us. I think that, oh, maybe I'll add a little bit more trees over here just to fill this out here on the end. Take it right off the page. Right off the edge of the page there. And we'll give a little bit of texture to some of these, the back side. Maybe I'll get a little bit of, just a little bit of that here on a few of these. Not much, just a little bit here, just to make them stand out a little bit. And maybe we'll, yeah, maybe just a little bit of darkness here. Just sort of a little bit of texture on the ground. Sort of give a feel of it going. just strengthen that horizon there a little bit. Make it a little bit darker. All right. So this is our first lighthouse picture. All right, and put a little yes down there, and 2025. All right, and that is our picture. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I said that I'd say something thankful for each time after we do the drawing. And one of the things that I am very thankful for is the opportunity to experience things around the world and to encourage my children to do that. You know, as much as I can get my daughters to try and see things and experience things, I think the more exciting this life can be. So let me know what you guys are grateful for, and I hope to hear from you, and I hope that you will subscribe or enjoy getting out and drawing. So continue to be drawn to gratitude. Bye, friends.